can kill me.
How good can an introduction to a series be? Well, Kentaro Miura was determined to make his the golden standard of manga, and it resulted in what is quite possibly the perfect first villain to explain to you just what Berserk is all about. Spoiler alert, the Snake Baron does not make it beyond his first and only proper appearance, but this one time that we get to see him tells us a lot about what apostles are and how they think and function. He is a gluttonous sadist who just wants to mindlessly devour and burn everything in his sight, riding into battle in a monstrous snake armour with his bloodthirsty thugs by his side, and his life and death explain a lot about apostlehood and what Guts' journey is all about. So without delaying things any further, let's jump into it. This is the Snake Baron's origins explored. Before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin. He is the demonic ruler of Koka Castle, the Snake Baron in Berserk's first chapter, the Black Swordsman. Kentaro Miura has stated in interviews that he was trying to pull in as many readers as he could with his first Berserk chapter, and we have to say that he succeeded with his goal not only because of the brazen energy of Guts, but the brutal energy of his enemy, the Snake Baron. After avenging Corcus in the first few panels of Berserk's first chapter, Guts arrives in the city of Koka looking for a certain man. He enters the inn at Koka City and inadvertently rescues an elf. When he tries to inquire about his target's whereabouts, the man who led those thugs tormenting Puck, well, he doesn't exactly inquire as much as he taunts them because he asks the stooge to tell his master that the Black Swordsman has arrived. The guy had a crossbow bolt hanging from his nose, so of course he ran along and did as he was told with gusto, which resulted in Guts being captured and imprisoned by the mayor of Koka. The Black Swordsman was subjected to torture that would have usually made a human being lose their mind with pain, but he remained defiant, even in the face of such terror. The mayor walked in and admonished Guts for his actions, asking him if he knew what he had done by killing those men. He informed Guts that his actions had possibly sealed the fate of the entire city, and the Black Swordsman immediately deduced that this was why the mayor had made a deal with the devil. Earlier, Puck had explained to Guts that the master of these thugs was the one who attacked his travelling entertainment troupe and killed their leader personally. This man's raiders caused so much wanton destruction in Koka that the mayor was forced to give in to his demands. He told Guts that this man wasn't even human, that he was a demon from the pits of hell, and defiantly asked him what he knew of their suffering to mock them in such a way, to which the Black Swordsman replies that he knows. He allegedly knows the Snake Baron is a monster that eats human flesh very well, and he also knows that the mayor sends him daily tributes of gold, women and children to save his own skin. This makes the old man fall to his knees and commands his guards to torture Guts as much as possible, but to keep him alive as well, because they need to deliver him to the castle while he makes haste there to get ahead of the situation at hand. This is where we get our first glimpse of the Snake Baron, who is lounging at a lavish dinner table and enjoying a meal like a distinguished nobleman does, tearing chunks of flesh apart with his fangs. He hears a full report about the incident in the tavern from one of his henchmen, and after hearing the description of the assailant and his sword, wonders whether it could be him. Just then a guard walks in and informs the Baron that the town mayor has just arrived and was asking for an urgent audience, which the bemused apostle accepts. He greets the mayor warmly enough, remarking that it had been a while since they last saw each other, but the grovelling coward gets straight to clearing himself of any blame for Guts' acts. He calls the Black Swordsman an ignorant vagrant who knew not of their ways and promised double the tribute as an act of repentance, but the Snake Baron can smell his fear. He calls out the mayor for his troubled state of mind and correctly deduces that, unlike before, he is worried about his own life now. He decides to show him exactly how helpless he has always been by flicking a portion of his meal at the mayor's hands, which turns out to be a human ear. The terrified mayor drops it onto the floor and falls flat on his back as the demonic Baron gives him the lowdown on how things really worked around here. He did not care for gold or prisoners. All he wished to see were people burning in a fiery inferno, bodies being broken by the feral horses ridden by him and his men. He gives the mayor a menacing look and tells him that he doesn't even need an excuse to do these things in the first place, making him realize realizes that they had all just been living on borrowed time anyway. He commands his men to take him away, and while we never see the cowardly mayor again, the 1997 anime made it clear that he did not survive all this. The Snake Baron makes up his mind to make Coca City suffer on his way to his desired meal. Puck saw the horrifying scene that he was capable of doing firsthand, committing whatever he told the mayor he was going to do to the people of Coca. The Baron himself was lost in a frenzy of murder as he started his feast in his human form itself, and he commanded his men to burn everything in sight to the ground. His forces charge ahead, partly out of obedience and partly out of fear of their master, but they are intercepted by the Black Swordsman, who rises out of a pile of corpses, throw them off their game. He cuts down dozens of them as they keep going at him in waves, and after losing about a score of them, the Snake Baron finally steps forward. He addresses the Black Swordsman by his moniker and acknowledges him as an apostle hunter, but he also declares that a human thinking he can keep doing this with no consequences was pure folly. The Snake Baron charges at Guts' axe first and gets peppered with his mechanical crossbow bolts, but being an apostle, it might as well be a scratch to him. He plays possum and allows himself to be hurled through a brick wall before transforming into his released form and thrashing him with his tail. As Guts flies backwards and cracks his head on the pavement, the Snake Baron declares his attempt futile as he reveals his hideous true self. He was a massive humanoid serpent whose face was reminiscent of King Nasubi's guardian spirit beast from Hunter x Hunter. If you know what that is, you know how gross Snake Baron's face looked, and apparently his men didn't know their leader was an actual kaiju, so when they saw the Baron advancing on Guts and screaming that he was going to feast on him while he breathed, they broke faster than a frozen Thin Mint. The Baron smashes Guts for a second and third time with his tail, and is rightly impressed with the fact that he is still breathing, as most humans would have their organs crushed by the first blow. He lands a final finishing blow, and Guts is damn near knocked out by it, allowing the Snake Baron to pick him up and revel in his pathetic weakness. He calls humans nothing but morsels for apostle kind, and tells him that food should learn how to act like food. But before he can finish his sentence, the Black Swordsman blasts him in the face with a cannon shot that leaves him wide open. Guts takes the opportunity and runs him through with Dragon Slayer, turning the tables on him completely. Now the hunter becomes the hunted, as Guts places a boot on the Snake Baron's head and tells him not to die yet. He fires off multiple rounds of crossbow bolts into his face, claiming it must be fun being unkillable, and all when he was lying defeated like this. He tells him no matter how pathetic and fragile humans might be, they at least want to live, as Guts continues to torment the Baron, who's begging for his life by this point. He asks Guts to stop and wonders who he is when he spots the brand of sacrifice and realizes just who this man really is. Before he can say it, the Black Swordsman gets down to the real action and presses him for the location of the God Hand, but the Baron doesn't know it. Apparently, it wasn't for apostles of his level to know things like this, so Guts decides to leave him to his fate and walks away as a burning column falls on the Baron's body. The same man who had so reveled in killing humans and being remorseless about it was now feeling the same fear his victims did right before he devoured them, so it's only fitting that he died screaming for help, like the coward he truly was. The Snake Baron only appears in 2 panels in the actual run for Berserk, and both of these occur at least 2 years before his encounter with Guts, but this meeting did explain a lot of things about apostles and just how debased their rank and file can be, and it also gives us an idea about the Baron's origins as well. A brutal leader who merged his inner demons to become an apostle. The Snake Baron's possible origins. The 2 times we see the Snake Baron appear in the main chapters of Berserk are in chapter 48 and chapter 80. After Guts and Casca make their way out of the forest where they consummated their love, we get a spread showing us the Snake Baron in his released form being spotted in the middle of the woods by some terrified bystanders. Later, during the humans' nocturnal feast, which took place at the eclipse, the Baron was seen munching on a falcon as Corcus tried to make a break for it. We already know what happened to him after this from the previous section, but what intrigues us is what came before, and we think we can guess bits and pieces of it from the limited information we do have about the Snake Baron. For starters, it's clear that he was some sort of a leader of men. We don't just say this because of the thugs that were in his employment in the first chapter of Berserk. We also say this because his battle armor looks like it came from his previous life, and that must mean he was a feared leader of men. Our best guess is that he was a mercenary captain who had mood swings that would would have given Griffith a run for his money, or a rogue noble because he's called a baron or lord in most English translations of Berserk. Either way, at some point in his life this man came across someone who handed him a behelit, or found one inside the dead body of someone he had slain. He took it as a prize of war and kept moving forward with his agenda to annihilate everything in his path. Though he was a cruel and sadistic man, he did have some people he cared for and who cared for him, but even those people would soon become martyrs to his appetite because, at some point in time, a situation arose where the Snake Baron had to make a choice. Either die and let his comrades live their lives in peace, or continue living and doom those very people who defined his humanity. Of course, knowing his fate, we can safely say that he opted to become an apostle instead of facing his death like a real man, and thus was reincarnated as the creature he had most been like in his previous life, a giant snake. It is possible that the Snake Baron was a deceitful mercenary leader or nobleman whose actions caught up to him and culminated in the circumstances that warranted his ascension. The argument tilts in favour of the latter category when you take into account his dressing sense and his table manners, two things that seem innocuous enough but can hold the key to understanding a person's standing in society. The Snake Baron dresses and behaves like a rich, wily aristocrat in the one chapter where we see him as a human. Now, it isn't uncommon for mercenary leaders to fashion themselves after nobility, but we think the opposite is true in this case. Snake Baron was a noble who has now become a demon that leads thugs and broken men into battle under his bloody banner, which is kind of fitting, given just how many apostles turn out to be knights or soldiers of renown. What it also explains about apostles is the fact that the lower they rank on the spiral of existence, the more feral they are and the baser their instincts tend to be. Higher ranking apostles like Locus, Grumbald and Zod are able to withhold themselves from indulging in their kind's natural instincts. The first two are noticeably absent from the eclipse, while the third was outside the interstice protecting it from any invaders because he didn't believe in gluttony like his brethren. On the other hand, apostles who ascended for the lowly purpose of merely preserving their own existence are the ones who tend to be responsible for some of Berserk's goriest moments, and the Snake Baron definitely falls in that class of demons whether you like it or not. His character was merged with the Slug Counts in the 1997 anime, and he is absent from the 2016 adaptation altogether. But we're just waiting for a day that a studio actually has the cojones to adapt Berserk panel for panel, because it's only then that you will appreciate just how lasting an impression this guy left with his debut in 1989. Marvelous verdict. And that's it for this video. The Snake Baron is one of those one-shot villains whose actions are so cheesy and over the top that you want to laugh at them, kinda. But if anyone can pull off that sort of characterization with seriousness, it's Kentaro Miura. He made this borderline comical manga villain appear like the stuff of nightmares in a single appearance. Many manga artists fail to establish even side villains with the appropriate context because of how much they focus on meaningless detail. Miura gets straight to the point with it, and he does it in such a way that you understand the deeper meaning behind a character's motivations by simply dissecting his art style. Snake Baron is a tertiary apostle we had a lot of fun covering, so if you want more videos on apostles like, I don't know, Borkov and such, let us know in the comments section down below. Until then, adios. Thanks everyone.